Welcome back, Master's students, to Week 14. Today, we're putting on our consultant hats for this explainer to synthesize the absolute highest-level strategic challenges you're going to face out there as future NGO executives. We're diving deep into the critical triad: innovation, digital transformation, and organizational sustainability.
Let's kick things off with a massive question. In an era that's basically defined by funding droughts, climate crises, and global pandemics, how do NGOs not just survive, but actively grow and deepen their impact? Because as you already know, just treading water simply isn't enough when vulnerable communities are relying on you.
Just look at BRAC's headquarters in Dhaka, Bangladesh. This is what surviving and actually thriving looks like in practice. Organizations like BRAC haven't just endured the turbulence, they've totally mastered this incredibly delicate balance. They mix relentless internal innovation on one hand with macro-level resilience on the other, building an infrastructure that can literally weather global shocks.
So, Section 1, Innovation and Scaling Strategies. Let's look at how you actually innovate without losing your foundation.
Listen, as future NGO executives, you've got to internalize this right away. Innovation isn't just about throwing money at the absolute latest software or cutting-edge tech. No, it is a deliberate, strategic process of completely rethinking your service delivery and how you engage with your community. It's about stepping way back from the well-trodden path to explore uncharted territories and how we actually solve complex social challenges.
The literature breaks this whole thing down into 5 distinct buckets. You can innovate your service by offering the public something completely new. You can innovate your process by changing exactly how a product is provided. Then there's administrative innovation, maybe changing how a regulated policy is monitored. Delivery innovation shifts how you interact with your stakeholders. And finally, organizational innovation, which is the big one, a complete redirection of your primary mission or governance model.
Now, Eduardo Missoni's framework is fantastic here. He brilliantly deconstructs scaling into 3 distinct lanes. There's scale up, which is when you embed an innovation directly into your corporate HQ processes. Then you have scale through, where you adapt the innovation across different countries, depending on local contingencies. And lastly, scale out, where you literally pass the innovation off to an external party, like a partner NGO or maybe a startup, to help it grow to scale.
But hey, quick word of warning here. Watch out for what Thomas Dichter calls the replication trap. This is a dangerous, frankly intoxicating obsession with novelty. Sometimes the pressure from donors for constant, shiny new innovations can completely distract your organization from the vital, long-term, consistent programmatic work that actually changes lives. Basically, don't innovate just for the sake of a grant application.
Moving right along to Section 2, Digital Tools and Responsible Tech. You simply cannot scale today without a digital strategy.
When we talk about going digital, there are really 2 roads you can take. The reactive approach is your basic business continuity. It's essentially just panic moving your old, inefficient systems onto the internet because you have no other choice. But true digital transformation, that requires the transformative approach. This means fundamentally rethinking your program delivery modalities and redesigning your work processes from the ground up to create entirely new value.
Now, the crucial piece of this puzzle is how you govern the data inside those new systems, especially right now in the age of AI. For years, lots of nonprofits just relied on security through obscurity, kind of hoping nobody notices their vulnerable data. Well, AI systems completely undo that. Shadow tech, which is all that software used by your staff without formal organizational approval, presents absolutely massive security risks, especially when you're dealing with a highly sensitive data of the vulnerable populations you serve.
But don't panic. You don't need to reinvent the wheel here to manage this responsibly. You just need to leverage specific tech capacity building networks. Great organizations like NTEN and TechSoup provide vital resources and discounted tools. Platforms like Board.dev can actually help you place tech leaders directly on your nonprofit boards to strengthen your governance. And thought leaders like Beth Cantor offer brilliant practical strategies for ethical tech use. Seriously, use these tools to empower your board and lock down your digital architecture.
When you get it right, tech is a literal game changer. Just look at Charity Water. They realized early on they had to prove to their donors that contributions were having a real, tangible impact. So by stepping back from the grind of daily operations, they leveraged technology not just to make their back office more efficient, but to radically increase transparency. They proved their water projects worked in real time, which massively increased donor trust and long-term sustainability.
Which brings us to Section 3, Social Enterprise and Earned Income. Because the big question is, how exactly are you going to fund all these massive internal transformations?
We're seeing a seismic shift in the sector toward the social business enterprise model.
In plain terms, this is an organization that applies profit-making business practices to generate income specifically to serve a social mission. The ultimate goal here is to align your economic value creation with your social value creation. Why? So you can finally escape the constant, terrifying vulnerability of traditional donor dependency.
As a leader, you are going to feel a constant tug of war here. On one side, you've got traditional funding, grants, and donations. Sure, it's what we know, but it is highly vulnerable to macroeconomic shocks and changing political winds. On the other side, you've got earned income, like selling products or services. This brings amazing financial independence, absolutely, but it can fundamentally alter the character of your organization if you aren't incredibly careful.
Because, let's be real, the risks of social enterprise are massive. The literature points out that the second you start relying on market-based fees, you risk excluding the exact poorest communities your NGO is founded to serve in the first place, simply because they can't afford to pay. You also face severe mission drift, where your focus subtly shifts from driving social impact to just turning a profit, which drains limited resources right away from your core constituency.
Section 4. Institutional and Climate Resilience. Let's look at surviving the macro threats.
If we look at recent research on how NGOs actually survived the immense shock of COVID-19, it revealed this incredible 4C framework. This is your bedrock for quick, effective decision-making during absolute emergencies. You need the capability for rapid problem assessment, the collaboration with stakeholders to pool your scarce resources, compassionate leadership to guide your completely exhausted staff, and crystal-clear communication. This right here is your crisis survival toolkit.
But you can't just react to crises. Your governance structure has to proactively build adaptive capacity. What does that mean? It means cultivating a shared vision, a culture of inquisitiveness, and strong evaluative systems thinking. It means consciously shifting your organization away from being heavily defined by a single charismatic founder to being defined by a shared organizational approach and deep social capital. That is exactly how you avoid sinking into irrelevance when leadership inevitably changes.
And we absolutely have to talk about this. Environmental sustainability can no longer just be shoved into a silo for the green NGOs to deal with. Human-induced climate change impacts are a reality for the next few decades, completely regardless of what your specific mission is. Every single NGO must now review its own carbon footprint and integrate community-based climate adaptation right into their broader development and institutional resilience strategies. It literally touches everything you do. Finally, Section 5, Managing Innovation with Accountability. This case regarding the Tennessee-based nonprofit Operation Troop Aid is a brilliant, if bleak, illustration of the dark side of earned income partnerships and rapid scaling. They engaged in this cause marketing co-venture with a jeweler, selling teddy bears to fund care packages for service members. Sounds great, right? But they completely failed to oversee the restricted funds and severely violated state charitable solicitation laws. The result of all that? Well, let me just read you this direct quote from the source. As part of the settlement, Operation Troop Aid agreed to dissolve its operation and corporate identity. Please, let this serve as a stark, unforgiving cautionary tale for you as future directors. A lack of rigorous accountability, tight board oversight, and legal compliance won't just cause a little PR hiccup, it can literally wipe your organization off the map overnight. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a defining challenge for your upcoming careers. You are all stepping into a turbulent, wildly demanding world. How are you going to balance the absolute, undeniable necessity of innovation and digital transformation with the unyielding demand for ethical accountability and inclusion? Can you innovate the model without losing the mission? I want you to really think on that. Great work today, and I'll see you all in our next session.